Am I the a-hole for leaving my cheating fiancé and then cutting financial support, making her family go back to poverty? So I came here for advice because everyone in my family and friend circle thinks I'm overreacting and that I should just forgive her. The usual bullshit. I want to know if you guys think the same. Let me give you some context first. I'm Paul, 33M, and I met my fiancé Andrea, 32F, when we were both 15, back in high school. We've been together ever since. We had our rough patches, especially when I moved to a nearby city to study, but I still visited her often. When I finally finished my degree and got a job back in our hometown, things got better between us. Andrea comes from a very poor family. 8 siblings, a house made of wood with a zinc roof. Classic South American poverty. I became the main provider in our relationship, and I didn't mind. I loved seeing her smile when I bought her ice cream or took her on car rides using my dad's car. As time passed and my income improved, I work in IT and landed a high-paying job at the town bank. I was pretty much set for life. I rented a large ranch-style house from an old family friend, 2 floors, multiple bedrooms. I wanted her to have the big house she always dreamed of. One day, Andrea asked if her parents and 2 of her younger sisters, then 12 and 14, could move in with us because their living conditions were unbearable. I said yes. We had the space and we weren't planning to have kids yet. I knew her family, they were humble but good people. Fast forward a bit. I started paying for her sister's private school and covering medical treatments for her mom. Her other siblings chipped in here and there, but they mostly worked low-income jobs. The economy is a mess down here, so I didn't mind covering what they couldn't. Now to the infamous D-Day. We were invited to a birthday party for one of her nephews. She went ahead and I told her I'd meet her there after work. I arrived about 2 hours later. I asked one of the kids where she was, and they pointed toward the public restrooms. I turned the corner, and there she was, hugging and kissing one of her family friends. We locked eyes. She panicked and blurted out the classic line, "This isn't what it looks like." I turned and ran toward my car. Funny enough, some kids followed me thinking I was playing a game, but her family caught on fast. She started banging on my car window, yelling, crying. I drove off. I hid at my parents' house for a week, holed up in a spare room. Eventually, I had to face her. I went back home to find the entire congregation, her parents, her 8 siblings, their kids, all waiting for me. They wanted me to forgive her, move past it. We argued. I asked if this had been going on for a long time. She didn't answer. I walked away while people shouted at me not to be a coward and to come back. 3 days later, I asked her to meet privately. Mutual friends helped arrange it. When I got there, I told them everything I knew and asked who the guy was. One of her friends finally admitted he was an ex. From when? I didn't want to know. I canceled the meeting and sent her a text saying it was over. I went back to the house 2 weeks later to pack my things. She and her entire family tried to stop me. They begged. Her friends piled on. Some of my friends even told me I was overreacting. The worst part? Even my parents said I should forgive her and try to fix our relationship. No one asked how I was doing. Not once. So I cut ties. With her, her family, most of our mutual friends, and even limited contact with my parents. I moved into a tiny 1-bedroom apartment I could afford quickly. 2 months later, I made my final rent payment for the house and stopped covering the school fees, medical treatments, everything. With no support, her family lost the house. She tried to find me, went to my parents' place, then showed up at my work crying and begging for another chance. For her mother. I told her I had no more attachment to her or her family and drove away. Now she's been talking to people in my circle again, and of course they're telling me I shouldn't be this cruel, that I have the money, that I should have compassion. But where was the compassion for me? So, Reddit. AITAH, for cutting them off financially and possibly killing Grandma because I stopped caring? Edit. First off, I'm sorry for the mess of the original post. I wrote it on my phone in a rush. Second, thank you for the support. I was really overwhelmed. Besides a couple of best friends, everyone else told me to forgive her. But your comments helped me realize I'm not crazy. I'll try to move on. I'll stay low contact with my parents. I understand why they took her side, but I don't want to hear it. As for my ex, I'll avoid her as much as I can, even though we live in a small town. I still feel like shit. I'm not ready to hear the full story, and maybe one day, if I can stomach it, I'll ask, but not now. Thank you again. Update. I never thought I'd be writing an update, but here I am. About a month and a half ago, one of my ex's friends messaged me. She'd seen how frail I looked. I'd lost 15 cal from all the stress and wanted to clear her conscience. We met at a plaza. She's getting married soon and wanted to confess what she knew. Apparently, the affair started during my 4th year of university, when I couldn't visit home much due to stress and studies. Andrea said she quit nursing school because of money, but the truth? She got pregnant by that guy and had an abortion. That's why she started hating the hospital and dropped out. She kept seeing him while I was away. According to her friend, it wasn't love. He was just better in bed. Later, during a period when Andrea and I were trying for a baby, she got pregnant again. She didn't know who the father was. She had another abortion and told me it was a bladder issue. I couldn't listen to more. That same week, Andrea came to my place again. I finally exploded. I yelled so much my throat hurt for 3 days. After that, I went to the police to request a restraining order. The officer laughed in my face and told me to man up. Eventually, I had a serious talk with my parents. They finally came around and apologized for siding with her. After that last outburst, I never saw Andrea again, until 5 days ago. I was at work when my mom kept calling. I finally messaged her back. She sent me a link to a local news video. Andrea had been assaulted and murdered by him, the affair partner. I called her parents, but they were sobbing and couldn't speak. Her older brother met me after work and asked me to attend the funeral. I agreed. I went with my parents. Her whole family greeted me like nothing had ever happened. I wanted to see her one last time, maybe cry, but the casket was closed. Her face was too damaged. Her brother later pulled me aside. He apologized. He said he knew about the affair but kept quiet because of how comfortable their lives had become. He told me Andrea had been physically and verbally abused by the guy. Neighbors had called the cops multiple times. She sometimes stayed with her brother when things got bad, but always went back. This time, the fight escalated. He killed her. The neighbor called the police, but it was too late. He fled. There's been no justice. And me? I feel numb. This wasn't the ending I wanted. Not for her. Not for me. I didn't want karma. I wanted closure. Thank you to everyone who supported me in the last post. I'm trying to rebuild. I'm still broken, but at least now I can move forward. Finally. You're not the asshole. You were loyal, supportive, and generous, far beyond what most people would do. She cheated, lied for years, used your resources, and let her entire family pressure you into forgiving her without considering your pain. Cutting off support after her betrayal was not cruel. It was a boundary. Her tragic ending is heartbreaking, but it doesn't erase what she did. You deserve healing, not guilt. You were a victim, not a villain. What about you? Do you think he went too far cutting off the support, or was it justified after everything that happened? Do you believe forgiveness was ever really on the table, or was everyone just ignoring his pain? Let me know your thoughts. And if you enjoy stories like this and want more real, raw drama every day, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for daily videos. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Would I be the a-hole if I stopped supporting my disabled father after years of being the only one who cared while he let my sisters commit fraud in his name? I, 26 male, have two younger sisters, ages 23 and 18. We all share the same mom and dad, both in their 50s. When I was 16, my parents went through a divorce that was less of a breakup and more like an explosion. Shards flying, damage everywhere. My sisters went to live with my mom. I stayed with my dad partly because he asked me to, partly because I felt someone had to. He was already sick by then. Kidney failure, diabetes, neuropathy, the kind of illnesses that don't just affect your health, but your identity. He went on dialysis and stopped working. Suddenly, I wasn't just his son. I was his caretaker, driver, cook, emotional support animal. While most kids my age were arguing with their parents about curfews, I was learning how to clean dialysis ports and talk to doctors. Over the last 10 years, I have taken care of my dad in ways most people in their 20s can't imagine. Meal prepping for his restrictive diet, monitoring his medication schedules, watching him spiral in and out of depressive episodes. When he was too weak to bathe, I helped him. When he fell in the hallway at 2 a.m., I lifted him. When he cried from the pain, I was the one holding his hand. And where were my sisters? Absent. Not just physically, but emotionally too. I've counted. My youngest sister has visited him maybe 8 times in the past 5 years. My middle sister a bit more, but rarely with any intention to help. Yet despite this, my father has gone out of his way, time and again, to support them financially, emotionally, and legally, even when it crossed lines. One of the worst betrayals happened when I found out my middle sister had claimed to be his carer to receive government benefits that require you to be providing 35 hours of care a week. She hadn't even seen him that year. I confronted my dad, furious that he would sign off on something so blatantly fraudulent. His defense? She needed the help. I couldn't say no. We fought, not just about the fraud, but about the principle. I was breaking my back for him while she got paid for doing nothing. It was like watching someone steal my identity and my work. Fast forward to about a year ago. My dad's doctor called me directly. He was being removed from the kidney transplant list. Not because of age, but because his body had declined too far. His diet was a mess, he wasn't managing his medications well, and his health was now so fragile that he might not survive the transplant surgery anyway. This crushed me. All those years I'd spent trying to stabilize him were slipping away. So, my wife and I made a decision. We moved back in with him. I changed our lives completely. My wife, who didn't sign up to be a nurse, stepped up without complaint. We started fresh with his diet. Low sodium, high protein, measured liquids. I sorted his medications into pill boxes and created charts for his dialysis sessions. We pushed hard, hoping to give him just enough improvement to qualify for a transplant again. One afternoon, while sorting through his letters and appointments, I found something that made my blood go cold. A letter congratulating my youngest sister for receiving a grant for young carers. Again, based on her claim that she was providing weekly support to our dad. I was stunned. She lives in another city and only visits on holidays. This grant required 16 hours of care per week. Once again, someone was profiting from my father's illness, someone who had never lifted a finger to help. When I confronted him, he gave me the same excuse. She needed help. I just wanted to support her. Another massive fight. This one worse. I told him flat out that I felt used. Not just by my sisters, but by him. That I couldn't keep watching him let others exploit him while I sacrificed everything to care for him. My wife was crying. I was shaking. He went silent. It was the first time I ever saw him look ashamed. We debated walking away, pulling all support, letting the two women claiming to be carers actually do the caring for once. But something stopped us. Maybe guilt, maybe fear, Maybe the tiny hope that he'd finally see how deeply we cared. And then, not long after, the decision was made for us. In January 2023, my father passed away. Kidney failure took him in the end. His body just gave up. We knew it was coming, but it still gutted me. He was unconscious in the final days, and while the rest of the family clung to false hope, I was the only one who knew it was over. The last time I spoke to him, I showed him the scan of our son, his first grandchild, 7 weeks. The baby looked like a seahorse with a heartbeat. He cried when he saw it. He reached out and touched the picture with trembling fingers. I told him not to tell anyone, that it was still early. He smiled and said, "I'll take it to the grave." He passed away 3 days later. He kept his word. After his death, the dynamic with my sisters stayed fractured. On his last birthday, we rented a canal boat because he'd always wanted to go on one. He crashed it into a tree within minutes, laughing like a kid. He had such joy that day. My sisters didn't call, didn't visit, didn't send a text. And yet, when he was dying, they rushed to the hospital like they'd been the ones by his side all along. He never got to hear them say goodbye. By the time they arrived, he was unconscious. He didn't know they were there. I did, because I'd never left his side. When I scattered his ashes, I took mine to the far end of that canal, the part he never got to see. I watched the water take them, and I let go. My sisters turned their share into jewelry. I haven't spoken to them since the funeral. Now I have a son who looks just like him. Same eyes, same weird smile, same furrowed brow when he concentrates. Sometimes I see my dad in the smallest gestures, how my son curls his fingers in sleep, or the way he loves music. It's haunting. It's beautiful. There's still grief, of course, and some bitterness, but mostly there's peace. Because I know this. My dad died knowing he was loved, not just told, shown. Every day, in every act of care, in every hour I stayed when no one else would. My sisters may regret their distance. That's between them and their own reflections. But I don't regret a thing. I was there, and that was enough. Up is not at all an a-hole. In fact, your story reflects something really rare: long-term selflessness. You stepped up in a situation where most people, even other family members, backed away. You gave a decade of your life to care for someone who needed it, and you did it with compassion, even when it cost you personally, emotionally, and financially. The real issue is that your sisters exploited your father's vulnerability and your reliability, and your dad, while not malicious, enabled their behavior, possibly out of guilt or favoritism, at your expense. That's not fair, and your anger and emotional exhaustion are completely valid. What makes you even more empathetic is that you didn't abandon him even when you had every right to. You stuck around until the very end, made his last years comfortable, gave him the gift of knowing about his grandchild, and honored his memory with peace and dignity. So no, Egg, you're not the asshole. You're the backbone of a fractured family, and unfortunately, that often comes with a heavy emotional toll. But you did what was right, and that matters. That's just my opinion. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for daily stories.